let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to ensure the survival and the success of liberty.
You have found the 22 November Network, the voice of the grassroots JFK research community. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast with your host, your boy, Rob Clark.
The Lone Gunman Podcast.
Raining zombies like a bastard out here. We'll give it a shot. Oh, we're halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Take my hand, we'll make it, I swear. Oh, living on a prayer. What is up, my people, What is up? Welcome to the Lone Gunman Podcast, episode number 27? Maybe? I don't know. I'm starting to lose track. That's bad. Well, it's episode 20-something. And you are listening to one of the greatest hair metal bands of the 80s, Bon Jovi, with Living on a Prayer. Because this week, people, we are going to be talking about the Prayer Man. And for those of you unfamiliar with the Prayer Man, you might be saying to yourself, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I'll get into it and I'll explain it, I promise. But anyway, welcome. This is your boy, Rob Clark. And the Lone Gunman Podcast. Thanking you for coming to listen again. First and foremost, this episode goes out to Mr. Johnny Case, who requested we get into Prayer Man. What's up, Johnny? I love your name. Even if it's not your real name, it's a cool, kick-ass name. Johnny Case. That's right. Let me reiterate something. September has started. We're 5 days in now. You have less than 3 weeks, if you have not already, to get your stuff organized, to get together, to get your butt somehow, some way to Alexandria, Virginia at the end of the month for the 26th, 27th, and 28th. We're going to be at the Old Town Alexandria Crown Plaza Hotel for the Warren Commission Conference, 50 years later, a critical look, put on by the JFK Historical Group and Dr. David Denton. Who's going to have such amazing speakers as Bill Simpich, Doug Horn, Peter Janney, Phil Nelson, Ed Tatro, and Judy Baker, a late edition Ed Haslam, our very own Gail Nix Jackson, and many others. To get the full list and to get the information on how to get your tickets, you don't have to buy them in advance. You can just show up at the door and get them. If you want to make reservations, stay at the hotel, call and do that. We cannot wait to see everyone there and become a part of this thing. And me and Doug talked to Dr. Denton last night, and we're even more pumped up about it now. So please, if you have not already, make your plans, okay? Take the Friday off, make it a long weekend, come to D.C., plane, train, automobile, however you can get there, on a donkey, it doesn't matter. You need to be there. This is the only JFK conference, well, one of the two, only one's going on this year. So, that matter. So get there at the end of the month, okay? And we got all the information on 22 November Network. Find the post, about the conference, and all the information you need will be there. Or you can go to changehistjfk.blogspot.com. That's change, HIST, jfk.blogspot.com for more information. All right, Prayer Man. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. I've been over my head with medical evidence the past couple weeks. And I'm about to get in over my head again with Prayer Man. For those not familiar with Prayer Man, he was discovered by, Sean Murphy mainly. I don't know if anybody did before him, but he's brought it back to the forefront of discussion, almost as an antithesis to the whole Oswald and the Doorway crew. This is a different Oswald in the Doorway, okay? For those of you who don't know, he can be seen in clips from the Darnell film and the Couch film. I believe it is. It's either the Couch or the Wigman. I'm not sure. But it's a very small glimpse. I mean, you got to freeze the film and screenshot it. And if you go back to the blog, 22 November, I'm going to post up a bunch of pictures of Prayer Man, and so you can see with your own eyes who it is if you don't know already, or if you just like to take another look. It's always good to refresh your memory, so to speak. Now, when I first heard about Prayer Man, I said, "Oh God, here we go again." I said, "What are you doing, Harry?" Because it had been, with the whole Oswald in the Doorway thing, it's one thing to blatantly disprove something that is visually speaks for itself. The photo of Altron 6 is clearly Billy Lovelady in the doorway. It's clearly him. Now, if you want to make it Lee Oswald, then you got to prove photo alteration. You have to prove that he was actually in the doorway with other testimony or other photos, which there is none to do that with. You have to prove how they altered the photo. You have to prove where Billy Lovelady was if that wasn't him. All the evidence we have, adds up to it being Billy Lovelady in the doorway. Unless you're one of the OIC crowd and you believe in all this, fantastic magical cartoons and everything else Rouse and K likes to talk about. But Prayer Man is different. Okay? Now, when I first heard about Prayer Man, of course I went and checked it out. It did not blow me away on the face. Okay, it didn't blow me away on the surface because while you could clearly see a figure there, and you can clearly see that the figure is wearing a long sleeve, dark colored shirt, which would apply to both Oswald and Lovelady if you believe Oswald was wearing the arrest shirt in the doorway. And even if he wasn't, there's more than enough evidence to prove that he was wearing a tan or khaki colored shirt over his white t-shirt, when he wasn't working that day. He probably took it off and hung it up somewhere, and while he was working, he worked in a white t-shirt alone. Now, in one of the clips from the little movie that these stills are from, we can see what appears to be Marion Baker running into the Texas School Book Depository. And now to do so, he would have had to run right past Prayer Man. Okay, so if Marion Baker runs past Prayer Man, and Prayer Man is Oswald, okay, as they allege, then we've got a serious problem, because then we do not have a second floor lunchroom encounter, which means Truly and Baker are lying about that. We also have everybody else out on the stairway, or out in the doorway, not being honest and saying that Lee Oswald was out there with them. So it comes down to where you have to go back And there is reason to believe that maybe the lunchroom encounter didn't happen as we might have thought that it did. You know, when you go back to look at Marion Baker's very first affidavit that he wrote that day, because his story does change. If you go back and reread his very first one, okay, there is no second floor lunchroom encounter with the Coke and all that happiness. The only thing he speaks of is encountering a man in I don't know if it was a tan or a brown sport jacket on about the, was it 4th or 5th floor, whom truly vouched for as the man worked there. And of course that story evolved later in his second affidavit and his subsequent Warren Commission testimony that no, he was mistaken. You know, it was the heat of the moment. It was actually, this confrontation occurred on the 2nd floor, and he had pulled his gun and asked if the man worked here, and the guy didn't say anything and truly said, yes, I vouch for him, he works here. And they continued on up the stairs. Now, I also went back and I reread Bill Shelley and Billy Lovelady's Warren Commission testimony and their first day affidavits. Now, what's interesting about that is they tell a different story in their Warren Commission testimony as opposed to their first day affidavits. The whole story that they tell in the Warren Commission, both of them tell it, that they, after the shots, you know, they had stood around. Both of them actually say approximately 3 to 4 minutes after the shots, okay, is when they decided to, or when I guess it was Gloria Calvary came up and told him the president had been shot, you know, whatever, and he said that they went out to the little island and they were looking around and they decided to go up the dead end part of Elm Street towards the railroad tracks. And both of them say they went up there probably about 100 yards away and then were turned away by the police and told to go back to work, or, you know, to go back to the building or whatever. And then they state that they came in back in through the side door on the west side there and you know, proceeded to take up their post. I think Bill Shelley by the elevator or the back door, and Lovelady by the back door, Bill Shelley by the elevator. You know, he was told not to let anybody off the elevator. But now the first day affidavits, the very first ones they did, Bill Shelley claims that, you know, after the shots, he went back inside the building to call his wife to let her know what had happened. And Billy Lovelady also states that he went back inside. You know, there's no mention of their little trek together down towards the railroad tracks. And in one of the films, it's been asserted that you can actually see Bill Shelley and Lovelady walking down the street, but it doesn't jive with what Lovelady was wearing that day, because the person in question seems to have on a short sleeve shirt, and we never see their faces, and they end up separating about, you know, halfway down, and one of them takes off running and separating from the other one. And even either one of them always stated that they were together the whole time, that one never ran off ahead of the other one. So we go back to square one. Once again, the school book depository does not want to give up the ghost. You know, it's one thing after another with this place. It's nothing matches the official story. You know, nothing jives with the official story. You know, I've even seen where they've done analysis of all male employees of the Texas School Book Depository, white males, and where they were at this time, and who was unaccounted for and who wasn't. And they seem to narrow it down that, you know, Oswald is the only one unaccounted for in pictures or where he was supposed to be at this exact time. The problem I have with that is I've also ran into a problem identifying Bill Shelley in the pictures, because it's been asserted that, you know, one of the only clear pictures we have of Bill Shelley that day, supposed picture of Bill Shelley that day, is when him and I think it's Danny Arce and Bonnie Ray Williams are being led to a police car, and I'm assuming taken down to the police station, and the cop accidentally sticks the shotgun in his face, and he's kind of rearing back and kind of like, whoa, you know, watch that damn thing. But you know, that's who everybody pretty much agrees was Bill Shelley. But there's some people that say that, well, no, there's no proof that that's Bill Shelley. You know, because we don't know exactly what he looked like. Because there's a dog show picture out there of Roy Truly and Bill Shelley, where they have their respective dogs. I guess it was taken at a dog show. And that Bill Shelley doesn't look like the Bill Shelley, you know, getting in the cop car. You know, where he's kind of got his suit on and he's walking laid back. Because people said, well, you know, if he was supervising these workers, you know, he wouldn't have really wore a suit like that per se. You know, especially when they're doing manual labor like that. You know, replacing the floor. You know, but who knows? Because, you know, truly, you know, he was wearing a suit and tie and a hat. And, you know, Shelley being a manager of the miscellaneous department, whatever the hell that is, you know, could have had a suit on as well. And I always thought, looking at the Auction 6 photo, that it was Bill Shelley standing behind Lovelady. You know, you see the what they call black tie man back there. And, you know, just matching that to the pictures that we thought was Bill Shelley getting in the police car. But it's hard to make a definitive match because nobody asked Bill Shelley what he was wearing that day. And we don't have a clear, definitive, authoritative picture of Bill Shelley from that day. So it's a little hard to match. Now, what if Bill Shelley was wearing a, you know, just regular guy clothes like his workers? You know, we don't know. You know, the prayer man could be Bill Shelley standing up in there. We don't know. Now, in some instances, and I think it's from the Wigman or the couch, but from the angle that I see, and you can see all these pictures up on the website. I'm going to post them all. I don't see Lovelady. Okay, you can see Frazier plain as day, because he's a big, tall lunk, and he pretty much stood in the same spot, you know, forever, and didn't move. But so he's very identifiable in the photo, but I don't see Lovelady. And Prayer Man shirt and build kind of resembles Lovelady. You know, of course, Lovelady resembled Oswald, so some people say, and I'm not utterly convinced that Prayer Man wasn't Billy Lovelady, because I don't see the two together in the photo. You know, so Prayer Man, in my opinion, could have been Bill Shelley. It could have been Billy Lovelady, you know, stepping back, doing whatever he's doing. Because you got to remember, most of these guys out there, this was lunchtime. So a lot of these guys out there, you know, were eating their sandwiches. They had sodas or a drink, you know. So, and you got to think, you know, they probably, you know, if they had trash, they would have went in, thrown it away, or maybe there was a trash can up there, you know. But I have a picture of the doorway with a soda bottle in approximately the position where Prayer Man was seated or standing. And of course he's called Prayer Man because he has his hands in front of him. But, you know, he could have been getting ready to take a drink, okay, from a Coke bottle. And like I said, I've got a picture of the Coke bottle sitting in the exact spot where Prayer Man was filmed. Now, could Lovelady or Shelly have a soda out there? It's possible, but we don't know for sure. That's the thing about Prayer Man. We're never going to know for sure. Okay, we're just not, because he's not. There's no definitive, identification that can be made, because the image itself is just too blurry. It's too featureless. To say, oh, this guy. I mean, and on one hand, I slam the Oswald Innocence campaign for wanting to make it so easy, for this to be Oswald. And the Prayer Man people are no different, okay? Sure, it would be great if it was Oswald. It would prove his innocence and everything, but it's just not going to be that easy. Either way, Doorway Man or Prayer Man, it's just not going to be that easy. And, that's what every researcher dreams, is to be the guy who cracks the case wide open. And, I'm not going to fault anybody. Now, I'll fault the Oswald Innocence campaign for just, dredging up some crap with no proof and then being dicks to everybody about it. But people trying to do legitimate research the right way, I'm not going to slam them. Because the people looking into Prayer Man, they have broken this down, to every possible, scenario, even to the fact that the interior of the Texas School Book Depository was altered, to try to disprove this lunchroom theory, so we don't have, the whole Truly and Baker thing happening. So Oswald is not up on the second floor. He can be out front, okay? But, you run into a little bit of the same evidence being used, like, well, Fritz's note says he was out front. Well, no, they don't. It's just a nebulous statement, written down in no particular order we don't know the question that was asked, or who they were referring to. And getting back into the whole nebulous spiderweb of the Texas School Book Depository, if looking at the scenario of if these guys were, in on helping A, the assassins escape, or B, framing Oswald with, this rifle and the shells and the supposed package and all this stuff, there would have been, a good bit of them guys, playing a part in this. And so we really can't take anything they say or any of their testimony at face value, because it pretty much all contradicts each other. Even when you compare it to things like Vicki Adams' testimony, everything gets just crazy, when you're trying to figure this stuff out. And one other thing is, of course, the mysterious Jack Doherty, okay, who, his whereabouts are very nebulous that day. He says he was on the 5th floor, but we got the 3 black guys up on the 5th floor say they don't see him. We got Jack Doherty up there saying he didn't see them. He's gallivanting all through the Texas School Book Depository. And he was mainly the elevator operator and the janitor type guy. He would come in the morning, first one there, he would open the building up, make sure the pipes weren't leaking, walk around, make sure the heat was on, or make sure, the air was flowing, or, just make sure nothing was wrong. And, he would also work the elevators and stuff for people. And we don't know what the hell Jack Doherty looked like. We don't even know if he was white or black. One thing the Warren Commission could have done for all of us, and it would have made everything so much easier, is that when they interviewed all the people, is they should have had them photographed at the time they gave their testimony. That would have made things so much easier. We would have been able to put a face to, Mrs. Geraldine Reed or Bill Shelley, Jack Doherty. It would have made things so much easier, and have them say what they were wearing that day. That would have been even better, okay? But, there's some nebulous stories out there about Jack Doherty being half a retard, being a high school football player, being tall with blonde hair, or being a short older man. It's just we don't know for sure. I know he was still under the care of his parents or living with his parents, but he was, I guess he was in his 30s or 40s at the time. And, Prayer Man could have easily been Jack Doherty. Now, then comes the idea, well, maybe Oswald stepped out just for a minute after the shots were fired and was seeing all the excitement like he said he was seeing, and then he went back in the building up the front stairway while Marion Baker and Truly are trying to get the elevator, and he makes it up. He goes up and to the second floor lunchroom from that side, from the front steps, as Truly and Baker are waiting for the elevator. It doesn't come. Then they say, all right, screw it, let's take the stairway, back stairway, and they would have encountered Oswald that way. Now, that scenario is a little more plausible, okay? Because I don't think Oswald was standing out there in that doorway the whole time watching the president get shot or as he went by. I don't buy that for a second. I mean, people would have noticed him out there, first of all. He would have been visible. People would have been talking amongst themselves, turning around, seeing who's behind them. If somebody were to come out the door, they would turn around just to look to see who it was, or make room for them to go down the stairs, to exit the building. Things like that, because there were several people standing on those stairs. And if somebody were to come out of the building and want to get down, they would have had to, make a little path. People would have seen him out there. But, make the caveat. After the president is shot, okay, chaos ensues. People think it's firecrackers. People start running. People start yelling, saying, oh, the president's been shot. It's pure mayhem and chaos out there now, okay? And everybody's trying to figure out what the hell just happened. So, say for a second, all right, Oswald got his change, okay? And the story from Robert Groden is true about this lady, whoever she is. Of course, there's problems with if it was Geraldine Reed or not. But whoever this person was that stated to him that they were giving Oswald change at the time of the shots. Okay. He gets his change at the time of the shots. Okay. He's walking back. He walks outside just for a second because, the doors are right there. He can see people, running and screaming, probably hooping and hollering. And he probably heard the shots. So maybe his curiosity got the best of him, and he stepped outside for a second, unnoticed, okay? Because at this time, everybody's focused on something else. They're either focused on what just happened, they're talking to other people, they're looking, they're trying to take everything in, they're trying to figure out if they want to go to where they think things happened, or they're crying, or they're in disbelief, dismay. Because a lot of people headed for the knoll. That's where a lot of people were going. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that just stood there and didn't know what to do. So say for a second, Oswald got his change to go up, to get a soda. He was on his way back to the front staircase, and he looks out the window because there's glass doors, and sees all hell breaking loose out there. Well, sure, that would spark anybody's interest. Be like, what the hell? So maybe he stepped out for a second and, he's out there. Maybe that thing in his hand is not a soda bottle at all. Okay, maybe it's his sandwich. Maybe he's raising his hands to take a bite of his cheese sandwich or his apple that he was having for lunch. Maybe he was just had his hands caught in an awkward position at on film. Who knows? But say he stepped out for a second, unnoticed in all the chaos, and he was like, and he probably overheard something about the president being shot and people were running around, and he was like, oh, okay, whatever. So he went back inside. He saw the cop running into the building. Now this surely would have piqued his interest with Mr. Truly on his tail. Okay. So Oswald would have went back in the building. He went up to the second floor using the front staircase to get his soda. He's in there getting his soda. And lo and behold, he turns around and this officer has a gun in his belly. Truly says, no, that's he works here. He's fine. I'll vouch for him. And about that time, all right, Oswald is like, all right, this is getting a little too crazy now. It's time for me to get the hell out of here. So he goes back downstairs where he overhears, Bill Shelley talking to some other people, possibly saying, nah, we're not going to work the rest of the day now. The police are in here and everything. That's it. So Oswald, grabs his overshirt, puts it on, slips out the front door, according to Buell Frazier. Okay. Now, the first time I'd heard Buell Frazier speak about Oswald leaving the Texas School Book Depository was last year. He did an interview with the Sixth Floor Museum, and it's on YouTube, and I'll post a link to that too up so you can see it and listen to it, because there's a lot of good information in there if you believe what Buell Frazier is saying, which I have problems with. But according to him, he stood out on those stairs for a while, like dumbfounded, like he didn't know what to do. And according to him, he saw Oswald leave the building, out the front door, down the steps, to the left, head across Houston to Main Street and up Main, and then he lost sight of him. But he said he watched him the whole way until he lost sight of him. Now, that scenario is much more plausible to me. Now, I'm not sure about the whole, I got problems with the bus ride and I got problems with the taxi ride. So, and I got problems with Buell Frazier. So can he be believed? Well, I don't know, because this is the first time that I've heard him say that. He wasn't saying it 50 years ago that he watched Oswald leave the building, which I think would be pertinent information, that needed to be known. But that's just me. Which takes us into, of course, the Roger Craig thing. That he saw somebody that he could swore was Oswald coming from like the back side of the building, down the grassy hill and into a waiting car, which makes a little more sense to me. Okay, because like I stated before, when the timing of everything from the shooting to Oswald leaving the building, to him catching a bus, to him catching a cab, to him getting home, to him changing clothes, to him leaving, to him standing on the street being seen by Earlene Roberts, like supposedly like he's waiting for a bus, and then making it to the Tippit shooting by 1:05 is very, very hard to believe. Okay. Now, if Oswald was the one that did shoot Tippit, then he would have needed to get home before that. He would have been, leaving the building in this white station wagon with the luggage rack, and, dropped off probably down the street from his house, or, somewhere relatively close to it where he could have been a short walk, for him to go back to his rooming house, get what he needed, change his clothes, and, proceed out. I'm not sure where the plans went awry, because, of course we have a cop car at 1026 North Beckley, Earlene Roberts' rooming house, which she states, while Lee is changing clothes, honks twice. And she looks out the window, sees a cop car, and the first time that she mentions it, she said it was number 201 or 210, something like that. And this matches the car that Gerald Hill had that day. Now, why that's important is there were people, if you go back to the school book depository, there's people that saw, well, Gerald Hill and the assistant DA, Bill Alexander, were together that day. And they were one of the first ones to get up in the school book depository. They were, but they left very quickly. Quick enough to make it over to North Beckley, possibly. Quick enough to be the other cop car in the alley as Tippett is shot, possibly. You know, it just gets into a lot of craziness from here on out. Now, back to Prayer Man. Prayer Man. So we can eliminate certain people who it wasn't. We can narrow it down to possibly certain people who it was. Could it have been somebody that didn't even work there? It's possible. You know, I'm sure people came from all over that plaza that worked in all those buildings, especially on the other side, to the Elm Street side, because that was where the president was going to be. You know, they were lining up because, I mean, it was very, very crowded on Houston and Main Street. You know, it was less crowded over on Elm Street. So a lot of people would have made their way there to get better vantage points of the you know, the president and the vice president and the first lady and everybody that they wanted to see. You know, the vantage point would have been better. They would have gotten at least probably first row to see them on either side of the street. You know, it wasn't like Main Street where people were 7-8 people deep. You know, here we have on Elm Street, people are one person deep, you know, and very spread out in places, especially as you get further down Elm. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that it could have been someone that just didn't work there. You know, it could have been, which could also explain why, you know, Billy Lovelady, Bill Shelley, Sarah Stanton, you know, Wesley Frazier didn't identify this other person because they couldn't. They didn't maybe know who it was. But then, of course, you know, the building housed, you know, I think it was almost 100 employees. And not everybody knew everybody. So therein lies another problem. But getting back to Prayer Man, okay. So could it have been Jack Doherty? Could it have been Bill Shelley? Could it have been Billy Lovelady? Could it have been Oswald? It could have been any of them, okay? My best suspects would be that it's Billy Lovelady, you know, because he's closest to that position, see, when he is seen in the auctions, all right, there was, I guess he was standing, if you're looking directly at the doorway, to the left center, because I like to put Wesley Frazier smack dab in the middle, okay, so he would have been to his left, and if you got Bill Shelley out there too, kind of in between him or right behind him, and we see the face of the black man. I think I want to say Otis Williams. I'm not for sure on that. But if you look at the auction 6, you can see a black man's profile right about at doorway man's midsection, looking to his left. And this man can also be seen in several other photographs that day. He can be seen in the Wigman, which shows you how people were spaced out in the doorway, even better than the auctions. The auctions, it looks very layered. It's a two-dimensional. It's hard to make out who's where, who's what, who's who. We get a much better picture of how people were spaced out on that doorway in the Wigman, and I'll post a picture of that up there as well. And we don't see Prayer Man in the Wigman. He's not there. We do see Frazier. We do see Lovelady. We do see Williams. I think this is who it is. He's very distinct in other photographs because he's wearing his whole outfit's like khaki pants, khaki shirt, and he's black. So he's easy to identify in a lot of the other pictures. Do we have his testimony? I don't think we do. If we do, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen him interviewed, and subsequently I'm going to check into that because Prayer Man would have been, right behind him on, at the top of the stairs. And I don't think Billy Lovelady was ever over that far. But if he was, he may have, stepped back and, let somebody out or let somebody in for a moment. Maybe he saw the cops coming and truly going in, and he stepped to his right to let him in, and there he is. He's caught. Could be anything. But I encourage everyone to check it out. Make your own opinions. Try to figure it out for yourself who this Prayer Man is. It could have been Oswald in doing the scenario that I laid out for you. It's possible. He might have stepped out for a second just to see what all was going on. And then he was like, all right, after the cop dashed in, he was like, all right, I need to get the hell out of here. So, he went in to get a soda, to get his jacket or his overshirt, and, he was out. Anything is possible. And unless we get another thing to surface with a clearer picture of him. And I also have another candidate for Prayer Man, and I'm going to post those pictures up as well. There's a creepy, I call him creepy, a creepy kid-looking dude who is seen in pictures of the doorway and hanging out around the doorway. And also I got pictures of him leaving the depository. And at a glance, he looks like Oswald. At a glance. But he's this creepy-looking kid. What it looks like to me. I don't know. I don't know how tall he was. I don't know, anything. I know he wasn't fat. He had, dark hair like Oswald. He had a white shirt on underneath of a long-sleeve dark overshirt. But I'll post pictures of that as well. I'm not sure who he is or who he was or what he was doing there. It's that, it could have been Jack Doherty because he was mildly, retarded. And this kid kind of looks mildly like retarded. But that's it for this week. Hopefully you can help me figure this out. Get to me if you got any ideas or want to discuss anything further. This is your boy Rob Clark. This is In the Can, beamed up to the satellite, directly to your ears. Rob Clark is out, baby. Woo!
Let fly the monkey of war!
And it feels like home.
Pain is temporary, pride is forever.
It's like an angel sighing. I have no choice. I hear your voice. Feels like flying. I close my eyes. Oh God, I think I'm falling out of the sky. I close my eyes. Heaven help me.
If it's the manual Garcia Gonzalez that I told him,
Got the right sock on, but the wrong ho-ho.
Fuck you, Ralph.